I go again on my own. Going down the only road I've ever known. It's another episode of Whole Life Crisis with me, the solo host, Ollie Rosser. I don't know. I haven't done one of these in a while, this kind of rambling stuff. I've been very focused on making dedicated YouTube videos with dedicated subjects. Specifically the recent Monzo crisis, where Monzo reported that they doubled their losses this year as opposed to last year. But I've done videos on those this week, so there's no point to discuss that in this. This podcast is more of a easygoing little chat, a little bit of updates on my life, and me sort of musing on things that don't really matter, but I just find interesting or feel like talking about. When the guy asked me, I've got a list of podcast agenda stuff here, and I should have read it before I pressed record. I did a little meditation session the other day. That's interesting. I don't meditate as regularly as I should, and I probably don't meditate for as long as I should. But then, shoulds and shouldn'ts maybe shouldn't come into meditation. It's not like a practice that you can be 100% good at. It's just a practice that you should maybe practice. So I try and sit down quietly every morning for at least 5 minutes and just breathe in and out as deeply as I can and sort of set my mind right and set my intention for the day. Sometimes things will come to me, things will come to mind, seemingly out of nowhere. They're not thoughts that I anticipated thinking. But at the end of the meditation that I did, I think it was Thursday morning, just as I was about to finish and get ready to get up and go to work, the phrase came to mind, just choose different, which I thought was very interesting. I think in the last podcast I mentioned that I've been struggling a little bit, I'll say recently, but it's probably been for the last 12 months, with healthy lifestyle and diet, and exercise and maintaining a good routine to keep myself in shape and keep myself physically and mentally fit. So this felt like a little bit of wisdom from the universe, I guess. I know it was my own brain that came up with it, but just choose different. I think it's a valid strategy. We are all day long making choices based on a number of factors. What do we want to eat? What do we want to do with our spare time? I finished work, but I'm tired. Do I choose to just sit on the sofa and sink into this tiredness, or do I choose to go out for a 30-minute walk, or do maybe a bit more vigorous exercise just to sort of end the day well? And all too often lately, I've been choosing the negative choices where I've just become lazy. I don't like it. It's not who I thought I was, but it's who I've allowed myself to become recently. So just choose differently, I think, was an important little understanding that I came to. I can choose. I'm at choice all day. If I see some junk food that I particularly want to eat, I can choose to say, no, this isn't going to get me where I want to be, both in the short term and long term future. Does that make sense? You understand what I mean. This isn't going to get me where I want to go. This isn't going to put me where I want to be in 10 years' time. So I have the power. I can choose to do these things. And I think it's something that maybe I forget too often, and maybe other people forget as well, that you can be sort of stuck in a rut, but it's not something that you can't get out of just by making these little individual choices in the moment. You don't have to have a 100% perfect day. In fact, I'd say that no such thing ever existed. But I know that when I was at my healthiest, I was consciously making better choices throughout the day. I would wake up, I would have a cup of black coffee, nothing else. I don't eat breakfast, I intermittent fast, and I eat at around 12 o'clock. And then I would make the choice to have a healthy, in quotations, breakfast/lunch. I then made the choice to cut out sugar. So when it came to snacking, I knew that I would choose nuts and cheeses over, it sounds stupid, over like Snickers or some other kind of ridiculously sugary snack. And anyway, you get the point. The point is that these little choices lead to bigger results. I think if you're on a path and you keep going down that straight path, I'm sure everybody's seen this graphic or this idea before. If you just start making little choices here, then the path sort of diverges by a small degree at first, but when you get further down the line, obviously these paths go wider and wider and wider, and one path is maybe the path of goodness and one path is maybe the path of evil, and I just need to make better choices to get on the path of good again. Not that I think I'm evil, I think I'm a pretty decent guy. But you know what I mean. So yeah, that was interesting. Just make better choices. And previously, before I did this little meditation and this saying came to me, I have been thinking that I'm focusing too much on negativity at the moment. So while I'm perhaps living on a diet of junk food, and what I'm putting into my body physically is not good for me, I think also what I've been putting into my mind has not been good for me over the past year. For example, I was watching way too much YouTube stuff and listening to podcasts, and it's all based around like the current culture war in America, left versus right, liberals versus conservatives, Democrats versus Republicans, and I find it very interesting, but it's way too easy to get caught up in worrying about what other people are doing when in fact I should be concerned about what I'm doing. They say you should be the change that you want to see in the world. Well, by paying attention to the arguments that other people are engaging in, I'm not actually doing anything beneficial for myself. So I decided to clean up some of the mental food that I was partaking in. I've deleted a bunch of podcasts that I used to listen to which no longer serve me. I've cleaned up my YouTube subscriptions, so now it's based more around positivity. Things like, videos like Casey Neistat's channel, which they're creatively brilliant and they make me want to get out and make more use of my equipment and my time for, creative endeavors. I've picked a couple of news sources which I think are valuable. I just think I want to get rid of all the noise and all the nonsense. I used to have a heavy diet of fitness videos. I used to watch like Tony Horton's channel on YouTube, and I'd listen to lectures based around health and what food does to the body and how we can minimize inflammation and all of this sort of thing. But lately that's all fallen by the wayside and it's been replaced with this negativity, drama channels. I'll admit a guilty pleasure is Keemstar, but it gets me nowhere. So I've decided to actively take that out of my life. And now I'm looking to replace those with more positive streams of information. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. I am, again, this is all, I don't know, I'm just rambling, but whatever. I can tick those off my list. The other day while I was driving around as well, I'm sure other people have had this happen to them, but I was suddenly hit by the recollection of a situation that happened years ago in which a guy approached me and he was quite aggressive. And I didn't handle it quite as well as I wish I had. I sort of backed down a little bit, and I think he was definitely in the wrong. I was in the right. Basically what happened was, it was a beautiful morning. I just finished sort of like my morning shift, and as I was walking back to the car, I had my camera with me, and there was an amazing sunrise coming up, and there were some builders doing work on kind of like a high church tower. And the vantage point that I was from, I was overlooking I could clearly see the tower, but I was overlooking a block of flats and like private gardens in the bottom. Not so private that you can't see into them when you're walking along the pavement, but people's personal private property. So I stopped and I was photographing the roofers doing this, whatever work they were doing on the scaffolding. And a guy approached me, and the first thing he said was, "Why are you taking photos of my son's house?" So I was quite taken aback, and I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Why are you taking photos of my son's house?" And instantly I sort of went into my default mode, which is sort of calm the situation. So not that I thought he was going to like stab me or anything. But instantly I explained myself, and I was like, no, it's fine. I'm not. I'm just taking photos of the guys doing work on the roof with the sunrise behind. It's an interesting photo. I'm not taking photos of your son's house. Plus, there's no one in the garden, and you couldn't see into any of the buildings anyway. So he sort of like backed off a bit then, and he ended the interaction with, "Well, it doesn't hurt to ask, does it?" And so I was sort of just went about my day. And then while I was driving, this happened years ago, while I was driving around in the car the other day, it occurred to me that what I should have said was this little zinger: "It doesn't hurt to ask politely, does it?" And I just find it funny that we sort of hold on to these little bits of baggage that, I mean, this interaction was a brief moment. It lasted like 2 minutes, and it happened 3 years ago. Why am I still thinking about it now? But I find it interesting that these things come up, and I don't know, I just thought I wanted to discuss it. I'm sure everybody's had this sort of phenomenon, and it happens quite frequently. Things you wish you'd done that you would feel better about if you'd done them in the moment. It's kind of like thinking of a comeback that you could have said to that bully all those years ago, but thinking about it 20 years later. Why do we do it? It serves nobody. That was a boring little tangent. That's all I really wanted to discuss for the main part, so I'm going to end this shortly. Again, this is just me trying to get thoughts out and get something recorded because I like the process of it. I've got a few ideas for a kind of YouTube series where I discuss personal philosophies and sayings that I've heard that have meant a lot to me throughout the years, but I just don't quite know how to structure it yet. I feel like it's quite a serious subject, and I'm not very good at producing serious videos. I laugh too much at myself. So I'm trying to figure out a way to sort of get it to fit on a dedicated YouTube video. But there's a saying that's been coming back into mind over and over again recently, which is, "You can't pour from an empty cup." And I think it's an important saying, and it's one that has stuck with me ever since I heard it. And the whole point behind it is that it's not selfish to look after number one. And in fact, by looking after yourself, you put yourself in a better position to then help others. And this can be, this can have effects on any aspect of life. It could be financially, where if you're too busy giving all your money away to charity, you're not putting yourself in a good position, and therefore you won't be able to continue these charitable actions on into the future. So in fact, it would be better to make your own financial position safe first and then give the surplus. The same could be said for health as well. As I said in the beginning of this, I've not been very healthy lately. I've not been taking care of my physical well-being, and therefore that puts me in a worse position to then help others. I can't do my job as effectively. I can't give my time and energy to other people who may need help because I've not invested that time and energy into myself first. And I just think, perhaps there's a all too often people will consider self-care. I don't like the term self-care. I think it's kind of like a modern modern expression, which a lot of people just take to mean have a bath and do your nails on a Friday night. But true self-care, taking care of yourself, taking care of your mind, your body, and your spirit. I do believe we are made up of those three things as humans. We are mental beings, physical beings, and spiritual beings. Again, maybe these are something I like. Maybe these subjects are something I like to discuss in the future. But yeah, you cannot pour from an empty cup. And I think it's time. I've been a little bit focused on other people for a good while now. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that I want to become a selfish person and everybody else be damned. But I think now is time to really fill up my own cup so that then I can pour myself into other people. And that's why I can't make serious YouTube videos, because I say stupid stuff like that and I end up laughing at the nonsense that I say. But I do think it's a valid concept. If you're listening to this, please feel free to write anything in the comments underneath. how give me strategies. How do you take care of yourself so that then you can better help other people? Because charity, and I get a kick out of doing things for other people, basically, and that's where I'll end it. I'm back. I got briefly interrupted there by Sean and Morty coming back from a run. And what I should have done is welcomed them back in, continued recording, and maybe had a bit of a dialogue on the mic. But I'm very shy about my art. And I get a bit self-conscious about recording stuff in front of other people. So I cut it short. But I didn't want to abandon what I'd already talked about because I thought that was quite a valuable, at least for me, and worthwhile discussion. So here's where I will actually end it. I'm going to edit this up, get it up, because I love that sense of accomplishment at uploading a video to YouTube, and then I can delete all of the things that went around it or went into making it, and then get on with my day and continually check to see how many views it has. But yeah, thank you for listening. You can find me on Instagram at Ollie Rosser Photo. You can find me on Twitter at Ollie Rosser. You can find my YouTube channel here, where you're currently listening to this, at youtube.com/Ollie Rosser. My website is www.ollierosserphoto.com. And that's kind of like the place I'm trying to make my hub of information for all of the things that I do. I'm trying to make that website really valuable, both as an informational place and a business avenue. Anyway, thanks for listening. All the links are in the description. Have a great weekend. Take care, and we'll speak soon.